Kia ora everybody, thank you very much for your time this morning. Yeah, as Dave said, it's just a brief discussion about the process that as the Kintail Honey Group we went through in terms of implementing a health and safety system. I'm sure all of you will have or are in the process of putting in systems. So I think it's important to understand a little bit about my background. I trained as a registered nurse back in the early 90s and moved to the UK. Conducted some other training in the health field. Got married, came home with my kids because New Zealand was the land of opportunity. And I spent another 7 years in the health system, and then after that I needed a wee change, and there was some discussion about succession planning and things like that with the family business. So I returned home in 2011. I'm involved in the local volunteer fire brigade and with our local health centre, and on the primary health organisation board, and also the American Foulbrood Pest Management Board. In the photo there is my father, James, holding a picture of his father, Dudley Ward. He's been a past president of the NBA, and the truck that's Dad's pride and joy. So Kintail Honey, as Marianne alluded to in her talk, we've got 4 businesses across 4 separate sites, and we do a variety of things: pollination, honey production, queen raising, and packaged bees. And our main base in Takapau, we've got our packing plant, extraction plant, and things like that. So we run about 40 full-time staff across the 4 bases, and we also employ seasonal staff. And for decades, we've employed international beekeepers. So the relationships that my grandfather and father and Marianne have developed over the years in Canada and France and things like that, we get their beekeepers over for our season, and we're now to the point where we're actually getting those beekeepers' children. So it's been a wonderful relationship, and we hope that continues. So I thought I'd start at the top. So what we have in terms of accreditation, we have the secondary level WSMP, and if some of you have been through that process, you'll probably be aware that it's now going to be defunct. ACC have done the data and run the things and have found that there's not really a great correlation between reducing at-work harm with this program. So we quickly just got re-accredited for another 2 years prior to them stopping that, just to make sure that, just to test our system again. We had done it previously, but just at primary level. We stopped at secondary level. We didn't go through to tertiary, because being a family-owned business, the tertiary level required another level of management and board engagement. And as a family business, we don't have that, so we couldn't tick those boxes. Essentially, the system on the ground floor, that didn't change one bit. To ensure that we could keep some pollination contracts and also some hive sites and things and some forestry blocks, we needed to do the impact pre-qual assessment. And essentially pre-qual is an independent company. Businesses go to them and they want contractors or service providers vetted for them on their behalf. It was a tabletop desktop documentation audit. To be honest, I found it quite frustrating. It was a real tick box thing, and I struggled with the concept that people didn't come down and see our operation, meet with the staff, or anything like that. And over the course of that time, I've had great discussions with ACC and WorkSafe and Prequal and the businesses who we are providing a pollination service for, to ensure that we're not out here just ticking a box to ensure that there's compliance and safety. None of us go to work to hurt ourselves or our colleagues. and you know, we've just got to be careful that we're not removing that practical stuff to be a tick box system. Anyway, the journey started in 2012. There was a bit of huffing and puffing, and I'll put that's a generational thing. Okay, that came from my father. Bloody hell, what are we doing? I've been doing this for 50 years, haven't heard anyone yet. You know, and we had a really good platform to start from. We had an established culture in the group. We were all on the same page. We didn't want to hurt ourselves or each other. And so, you know, James, he just had to come along for the journey. And that journey required lots of bit of paperwork, lots of conversations. And but from the outset, we ensured that the process and the journey was going to be simple. We had to have it simple. So I thought, right, let's see what's out there. So I engaged with an injury consultant at ACC, Kirsty McInnes, and she's been with us all the way through. Absolutely superb. She put me on to Franz at Safe On Site. I'd had discussions with other health and safety operators, and they were like, yeah, I can get you a system, great system. I'm $280 an hour, but if I come down and meet my travel time, I'll drop that to 120. I thought, oh, great. Anyway, we didn't go with those expensive guys, and no disrespect to the people who are running health and safety businesses and systems and things like that. Also, from the start, we engaged all of the staff. We don't have a health and safety committee. Every employee across all 4 businesses are the health and safety committee. So if there are any new initiatives, any changes and things like that, it happens at our Monday morning meeting. We all get together and we have a discussion. And we've found that the buy-in is incredible. The picture here, that's Hawkey. He's our engineer, and he's just happy to be there with his high vis and his health and safety board behind him. So pretty much, I purchased a health and safety system. I purchased the documentation. I wasn't going to sit down and rewrite it. It was going to take me hours. So with the help of Franz from Safe On Site, we did that. And we fit the system to the company and to our requirements, and it was quite easy to do. We developed hazard registers and controls. We developed the standard operating procedures. And one of our biggest concerns for us was in the workshop with the woodwear. There's not really any courses unless you've done an apprenticeship building course or anything like that to say or to approve you for using a saw bench and things like that. So we developed our own standard operating procedures with the guys in conjunction with the manufacturers of the saws and things like that, and it seems to have worked. We've engaged with landowners and other business owners, i.e. the transport companies that come into the shed to drop off products and pick up honey and things like that. You know, it's about those relationships, developing them. A lot of those guys, they're on the same journey as me, and so they had things to share, and we together, you know, we came up with some simple solutions. And again, it's about that open and transparent engagement with your whole team. It's so important, and also the generational huffer and puffer. He was enjoying it after the first 12 months. So that's Steve Smith. He is our engineer, Smith Engineering. If you want cone envy, he is the man to go and see. That photo is probably 2013. He's got a few more cones than that now. But he really jumped on board, and he was really good to work with in terms of refining some systems and bits and pieces like that. The collaboration with ACC and WorkSafe has been an important part. Kirsty comes down to our premise in Takapau every 6 months, and we have a full staff meeting, and she gives us any updates on any changes in things. She shares experiences with other industries that she's doing work with. She works a lot in forestry and other horticulture and agricultural businesses. And so gradually the culture had gone from an informal one to a formal one. You know, initially when we started, I've got a cut finger, and but all of that stuff, that just sort of petered out, and everyone really got on board, and it just became business as usual. WorkSafe. So with every system and with every good idea, it gets tested. So unfortunately we had a serious event. It was on a Friday, 5 o'clock, Murphy's Law. Everyone's gone home. We've got a block of land where we do some queen rearing and bits and pieces like that. And to keep the grass down, we have some stock. And so we went out and fed out some hay. Now, this is after the incident, we had to take some pictures and bits and pieces for evidential stuff for WorkSafe. And so this is a wee mock-up. So essentially what happened is my colleague was on the back of the truck. He was feeding out the hay, and the baling twine was hanging over the edge of the wee truck there, and he reached down to obviously bundle the hay, the baling twine up. And at that moment, the wheel ran over the baling twine, and it pulled his hand down to the side of the truck. And that is what happened. So essentially, it pulled his little finger against the side of the truck, and the tip of it snapped off like a carrot. And our gentleman was very stoic. He didn't say anything. He then thought, gosh, that's right, the dogs are with us. So he banged on the roof of the truck, and we stopped. Anyway, he said, oh, my finger's gone. So anyway, we managed to find his finger, and first aid and things like that. And so I took him up to our local A&E. Excellent service. We met the ED6 target, which is in and out in 6 hours. Can't complain there. And so we were at home. Anyway, I followed the procedure of ringing WorkSafe 0800 number. Being the weekend, no one was there. And as it wasn't a death, I didn't leave a message. So I collated all the relevant stuff over the weekend and contacted them first thing Monday morning. And they reviewed it, and they acknowledged that it was actually an accident. We didn't have any corrective actions or anything like that, and whether or not that's right or wrong, I don't know. But I was grateful that we were honest, we followed the system, and the system for us worked. 4 weeks later, we get a call from WorkSafe. Oh, we're just in the area, let's come and have a look around. All 4 sheds. I said, okay, fine. You don't know what you don't know. As a business owner, in talking with these guys, WorkSafe's changed a lot in the last 18 months. Their staff has increased 4-fold. A lot of people are learning their job and their roles and responsibilities and the legislation and things like that. So they came to Takapau, and we had a lady, Jo Rowe, very nice lady. She's a nurse as well, so we had a bit of a banter about some nursing stuff. And she looked around and she said, "Now, your fuel containment, what's the story there?" And I said, "Well, we use a fuel company. They come and fill up our tanks and when we need them, and we've had that relationship for many, many years." Now, when we moved to Takapau in 1976, Mum and Dad bought a house and 6 acres of land and plonked a shed on it, and it's grown from there. Now, the new legislation talks about that. So that diesel tank, the big one, 5,000 litres, the petrol tank's 545 litres. If you don't own any more than 4 hectares of land, you cannot hold any more than 100 litres of petrol if it is a work site. And so we'd been doing this for years. Those tanks are, have been there for a very long time. So I said, well, I don't know, they're just there. And she said, well, the legislation's quite clear, the rules are quite clear. I said, okay, how do we fix it? She said, well, you need to get the HAS guys down and they need to do an assessment and ensure that it's right, and then you need a qualified fuel handler on call 24/7. And I said, okay. Simple process. They came down, they certified the tanks, they were all refurbished, and we now have one of the guys from Allied Petroleum who's our on-call 24/7. But in terms of what you don't know is that one of the discussions I had was one of the WorkSafe people said, it's on the website. Now, if anyone has had a look at the WorkSafe website, it is massive. And I really encouraged her to ensure when they have their monthly management meetings or whatever, to ensure that that message gets out there that, you can't just say it's on the website. And so as everybody's health and safety journey progresses, you will always come up with wee hurdles like that. And it is, you don't know what you don't know. And so I've got to stress, I'm not a health and safety expert. I know a little bit about the Act and things like that, and I know a bit about the process, having personally been through it. So we started off with the old Health and Safety at Work Act and have moved into the Health and Safety at Work Act 2015. And it's important that, we all know what it's there for and sort of in the guts of it, of how it works. It is a new way of thinking. It recognises that each business is in the best place to know the health and safety risks. And it's what's doing is what most reasonable and practical. In our woodwork room, trimming boxes and things like that after we've made them, you can't use a guard on our saw bench to trim a box. The guards just wouldn't work on any saw bench. So our standard operating procedure makes reference to that. And so we've ensured that when you're trimming boxes, you follow these rules. And so it recognises that, there are differences. So where do you start? You need to know what the health and safety risks are for your business. You need to take into account the factors, the likelihood of any risks concerned or occurring. We have extraction, there's lots of moving parts in there. We have packing, there's also moving parts in there. And obviously all the beekeeping aspect. Vehicles on the road, private land, motorbikes. We do a little bit with helicopters. So you just really need to understand, and the team needs to understand as well. You need to know what your hazards are, how to eliminate them or minimise them with the controls. And ensure that everyone has a role to play. So the acknowledgement that it's not just up to the employer is a big thing. The employees need to know if there are rules and standard operating procedures in place and they have had the proper induction and they don't follow those rules, that there are consequences. And I think that's one of the most significant shifts, especially for my father, that has happened, that it's not just down to the employer. The employees need to take responsibility too. So focus on managing the risks, get the controls out there, and it does allow flexibility, hence going back to the saw bench and with the guards. So my advice going forward for people when they're developing or working with their health and safety systems, keep it simple. You've got to bring the huffers and puffers along with you. Ensure that there is full staff engagement. That's incredibly important. And utilise the government agencies. Utilise ACC and WorkSafe. That's what they're there for as well. They're not the police. They're there to help educate you. So don't just rush out and spend 20, 30 grand on a system that you then have to fit your business around. You don't need to do that. If you document something in your system, make sure you do it. That's one thing is during the audits and that, when they came around, they said, well, you've said you're going to do this. Where's the evidence? Yep, gave them the evidence. Don't get baffled by bullshit. There has, I suppose when I first started looking into it back then, there was, everything was ramping up. There was a lot of political pressure. And so there was a bit of scaremongering in the industry, and people were, really baffling other people out of fear. I think that's definitely changed. And keep calm. Don't get angry. It's the way of the future. This is something that we all have to do, and it'll be okay in the end as long as you engage all your staff. That's it. Thank you.